Welcome. We are at Baywitch. Thanks for coming, y'all. How many folks have heard of the Akashic Records? Some folks, I know some folks might not. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do. Basically, the Akashic Records are like an energetic imprint of your soul's experience, and everything has an Akashic Record. So we each have Akashic Records. It's kind of like your soul point. It bridges into past lives, future experiences, all sorts of relationships. Inanimate objects can have them. Groups of organic or inorganic beings can have them. Historic locations and sites, all sorts of stuff. It's really kind of like source-held information. And so part of what I have practiced and learned and trained to do is to get in touch with this space. And it's wild and exciting and lots of fun information. So tonight what we're going to do is I'm going to open up the Akashic Record of Akasha, which is kind of like an overarching information source or a point of contact with, in my mind, source energy. So if we've got non-differentiated space and then slightly differentiated space, we're tapping into the slightly differentiated space. So this is going to give us a really beautiful perspective that has the capacity to hold information that is further differentiated into individuals' experiences. And then the topic we're going to kind of focus on tonight is food, nutrition, agriculture, anything around this that piques your curiosity. And the way that this works is this is a channeled experience. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and say a blessing and kind of get in touch with this energetic space. And then I'm going to open up the floor. And that's where you guys come into play. You can ask questions or curiosities you have about any of these things. And then soon we'll really just get flowing and we can kind of take it from there, and it's really wherever we want to go or wherever you guys want to go. I can kind of ask questions, but not really in this sort of an experience because I'm kind of holding the space. I'm like kind of a straw, a channel. It's like I'm the operator and you guys are grounding us on one end, and then Akasha is going to be up here at the other end. I'm going to go ahead and get quiet and say a blessing, and then I'll let you guys know when we can start with a few questions. Okay. My center with your center, our center with all centers. Our center is the one center. I enter the realm of masters, teachers, and loved ones, of Akasha, keeper of the light, and match our hearts and minds with theirs. Let us find through joy and wisdom the ability to open the universe and ourselves to greater possibility and deeper love. Eternal Source, fill our hearts with clarity and sacred power, and show us Akasha's place of balance. Hear us now as we become one with the whole. And when we are complete, release us in love and admiration, keeping our energy raised. My records are open. I'll let y'all know I usually get some opening imagery as I say the blessing, and the experience that came to me was just very much like a channel or a portal of light that felt flowing down into our space. And I see it almost like a vapor kind of like rippling past our feet, kind of out, and almost as you would consider dry ice. You know how it kind of like wafts in clouds like that, kind of like that. And I almost now even speaking of it, get the sensation of it kind of like going over my toes, shins, and just kind of rippling out, with the concept that the experience that we're calling into us at this moment is going to be one that is for us to experience and will be present in our bodies, and is also one that will ripple out beyond each of us as we step into the world again and kind of share this shift with other people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful, exciting, good. Yeah, does anyone have any curiosity or question that they'd like to start off with? Run from?
I do.
Yeah.
I was wondering about diet and, say, children with ADHD or problems like that. Does diet impact that, and how could we use diet or nutrition to help with that?
Yes. The sense of diet is most important to be driven by the taste buds that we have in ourselves. The concept of our body's needs and resonance is one that we'll find it most accurately in our taste. You asked specifically about children with ADHD, and we'll get to that point in just one moment. But I feel them kind of turning me this way as if to like orient me to the topic at hand. And there's this concept of feeding your body the things that it craves. Feeding your body the things that it craves, the taste that you have, and this concept of active feedback loops that we have perhaps a little bit stepped away from as we currently stand. This is the concept of to taste a thing and to allow its experience to wash over ourselves, both in the taste and even less of like how it makes our stomachs feel. Kind of find surprising, but more of how it makes our minds feel. This is particularly valuable with folks who have neurotypical and aneurotypical idiosyncrasies that allow them to perceive food differently. This being that folks with particular brain support needs, ADHD being one that is requiring a shorter feedback loop, more active process. Yeah. But anyway, the concept of having a taste, feeling how the energy kind of like ripples across the brain almost. And then tasting a different thing. And when you taste a different, something that doesn't serve you quite as well, it ripples and leaves you feeling more scattered. And it's about what your concepts, like I'm hearing and tasting, and I know we have them too, blueberries, but I'm hearing blueberries and the concept of how this, I think that is actually a super brain food or something like that. But feeling how this wraps around your noggin. This is not specific just to folks with ADHD. This is something that can behoove all of us to experiment with. But it seems more about how these foods impact our brains than impact our guts at this particular moment in time. Although that changes in the future, they're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, when it gets quiet, feel free to either like raise a hand or go ahead and throw a question out. The information, like a lot of times it just like whoosh, like comes in almost like a deluge. At some points it can be like kind of a lot and very fast. And then other times it just like quite quiets and the water is kind of just still a little bit. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering like how the consumption of alcohol is like affecting us and our vibration and what that's like actually doing to our bodies and our mental state, I guess.
Yeah, vibration is the thing that matched most predominantly from the words that you were saying. This concept is I see layers, so to speak, of having the incredible ability to unify vibrations of many multiple peoples. Drinking one particular, not alcohol or substance, elixir, one particular elixir, each has its own vibrational frequency, right? And the greatest use of this as a tool, and one that has been used biblically, which now I'm seeing like the water and wine, and it has this capacity to encourage everyone to align with a particular frequency. And this is where the power has historically come from, this space. The challenge now is the concept of so many different options and spirits at one particular event. It almost tears us apart in the sense that if we have a bar or a housing experience, a place at which an experience is housed, that has many different options, it is one that almost stratifies us. It's almost like stratified layers of rock where it challenges our ability to align around a single purpose. This is where the dissonance from alcohol comes in for us, because at this point in our lives and progression, there is quite a stratification of energies, and yet also a building of energies where there's so much more coming in than there ever has been before. This is one where it behooves us to continue to collect together and unify as teams, as a particular team with a particular instance at hand. It also is a concept that each spirit is aligned with its own particular, I'm hearing core memory, but its own particular kind of like mission, which tricks us away from, redo that. It can pull folks away from their individual missions as are sent to them. This is no issue if it is so aligned with their choices and their particular mission in general. It can even amplify or focus, such as coffee or caffeine can focus us on a particular task at hand. Air quotes are coming through for that because that is to our understanding. I don't think that's what's actually happening when we consume caffeine or coffee or tea, etc. But it does the same thing in that sense. This is the concept that it comes down to big personal, a juxtaposition of personal alignment versus collective need. This is where it's really important to be in touch with your particular propensity or mission to consume substances of any kind. Aligns us with an energy that is inherently not ours, including plants, non-plant matter. That has an asterisk on it because we're going to come back there for sure. Non-plant matter, and also like I'm hearing and also tasting like hibiscus tea right now too. So like any sort of thing. It's just a matter of what vibration enhances our personal duty and mission at that moment. And this is one that reiterates the importance and value of consuming what our taste buds are calling for, and having that taste in your body that washes over your brain and then goes to your ears or whatever knowingness that you have, because we each, especially in this room, I'm feeling some like big body knowingness over here of like your body you feel in your body knowingness if something's good for you or not, right? And it's different for everybody. Some of us hear it, some of us smell it, some of us have different experiences there, but it's important to be in touch, number one, with your body knowingness, and number two, to be hearing it and also asking it what it thinks about the things that you're consuming. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. this is some concept also I'm seeing, like spirits, like alcoholic spirits, like liquor spirits, and I'm seeing this connection. I see like a graveyard and this whole concept that we've heard of before of spirits being connected with, imbibing spirits being connected with entity spirits. And this is almost the concept they're showing me of someone who has passed away from almost not necessarily what we would call today an alcoholic bent toward a particular spirit, or someone who had a strong particular relationship with a spirit. And this sort of alignment with mission that this person had. It is also part of our particular taste for different flavors of things. Like I'm hearing in my mind, I know I have a propensity for a particular kind of wine, and it is telling me now that this is a reason that I experience this thing, because the minerality, the acidity of this is particularly aligned with the motion, with the wheel of movement that exists inside my particular blueprint of a physical body. And so we all might be curious about what kind of energies and what kind of, how do we say, alignments, missions, callings are aligned with each of the substances that we particularly like, whether it's food, wine, alcohol, things like that. Yeah.
Would those food or drink propensities relate to a past life? Is that why we would have that? Is it a core memory?
Correct. In some things, in some situations, there are lineages, so to speak, where one was working with a particular taste or experience in historical context. Though this is a lineage, like a living lineage, so to speak, with the evolution of our foods as they have changed and they have evolved, they've continued on. And while there are some aligned mission work, just as over our lifetimes we can consume and like get into different hobbies and then change these hobbies partway through our lives to our tastes and our developments, and also what feels complete and yet unanswered for us. So too do we also experience this kind of relationship with foods through past lives. Some lives we have a tying up of a particular relationship, or we have made an agreement with this food or substance or alcohol to collaborate, to work on the same team through this life. Other times it is one that is a long-standing relationship that lasts throughout lifetimes. I'm also hearing information about cravings in cravings in pregnancy and cravings in different parts of our lives. Part of this is orienting mother and child to the shared experience. It is like giving breadcrumbs, like giving a scent, giving a precursor. It's like when you're standing outside of a restaurant and you can smell the food and you're like, yes, this, and everyone is smelling the same smell of the food. And it orients you to what you can, the expectations you can have when you step inside that restaurant, correct? And although like each restaurant, each familial experience, each mother-child bond is going to be particular and different, just like you can step into a restaurant and get different items on the menu, there is an overtone of what you can expect to accomplish together. And it is helpful to, it's most helpful to the child to begin orienting the parent to the experience that this child is wishing to create and shape and shift into the world. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We always think it's the other way. The mom influencing the baby.
There is slight interest in that it many times can originate from the parents' request for what they choose to create in the world. And this concept that some parents, some especially maternal beings, carrying and creating life within their bodies are doing so at a request to have an additional teammate, to have someone to back them up. Other times there are requests from children to be created and performed into the world, and there is a consent and willingness. It does go both ways, but the concept of scent, and especially scent during pregnancy too, of what feels aligned, what feels ill-aligned, has a lot of information to do with the relationship, yes, but also the sole purpose of the being within you and what they are creating in the world. Because there is this concept of you have this craving during pregnancy, and after you are just, it's not a thing. It is perhaps not yours to hold and perpetuate, but as you are anchoring another extremity, another soul of experience into the physical plane, it's valuable to conceptualize this being into the physical experience and to introduce them to the sensory interactive tools that they have available, or that they will have available as they step into their own planetary experience. Yeah. Yeah. Open for more questions. I should come up with a hand signal or something. Of like, yeah.
Okay. What can the Akashic Records tell us about this new fad where you fast for so many hours?
Correct. There's continuation of this experience as it strips your body of input, which is important in many people's experiences that have been short-circuited. Short-circuited in the sense that there's so much information that is coming in that it kind of blips out, and no longer does the mechanism that we're going to call this mechanism the concept of like when you taste something, it washes across that feedback loop. No longer does this mechanism that tells you your response, your physiological response, whether that's your body knowingness or whatever tool that it is that gives you that information, has been skipped over, jumped over. I'm seeing Uno, like the cards where it's like skip a turn, or like, you know, when it skips you over, it's skipped over that experience. And so this does not help the human continue to engage in what might be particularly supportive of their energetic refueling and realignment. This is what food consumption, any consumption is a realignment with our particular path and purpose, as it most immediately feeds us now, because it supplies us with fresh, another asterisk, fresh information, depending on the substance that we are consuming. All right, we're just gonna tangent all over the place, guys. This asterisk is showing me that different foods, like the freshness of our foods, if you go out and you have a garden and you pick something and you put it in your mouth, that is the freshest information that you can get. It has been influenced by the sun, which constantly brings quite fresh information, although a bit delayed. There's also this energetic connection that this entity has with source space via the Akashic Records. Or this, they're clarifying, it can be called this, it can also be called this, like, you know, the silver thread that connects any and all creation to source space. The Akashic Records are showing me are like this, if you have a wire, it's the insulation almost around a wire. It's insulates that information stream. It holds the space. It is as though it is like the straw. And once it is the energy traveling down into you. Anyway, okay. Kind of going all over the place, and that's okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask for clarification? What is the insulation? Is it the information from the food, or is it the Akashic Records?
They're saying the Akashic, they show me that the Akashic Records are this space between, it's almost like it's between the wire and the insulation. The wire is like that silver thread that's coming down to each of us, and also our food. It's that same concept that everything everything has a connection to source.
Okay.
And that, I think that clarifying the concept of what the Akashic Records are, like visually, it seems as though, is that it's like if there's source and there's a wire that connects us to source, that insulation around is the differentiation between different wires. There can be bundles of wires that come down too. Yes. All this set aside, the relationship with our food, the freshness of it, the different kinds of information that it brings into our bodies. And what brought me there was the fermentation of wine and alcohol, or even cider, mead, kombucha. Fermented things have a additionally infused energy in them because they have been allowed to mature on our physical plane and planet. So there is an interesting history that these folks have, that these energies and entities have when it comes to giving us information, a certain kind of coloring, if you, so to speak, a wisdom that is matured and different from the rest. So it's interesting it's pre-digested almost in a way to be available to us in different ways. Same with our fossil fuels. Though it's important to understand that the longevity of this aging process, and I'm seeing and hearing aged cheese now, this gives us information about the history or how old, or I'm hearing out of date, out of touch, the information is, which is valuable at this day and age when things are moving more rapidly. This is the interest and the call to eat more fresh and current of the times foods, anything that's like super fresh, unaltered, unchanged, because it has massive loads of information for our bodies to integrate and shift and change themselves. Which brings us back also to your question about fasting, and that this is a mechanism, repair procedure that allows an individual to rest their circuitry, allowing for the repair and reinstallment of this feedback loop to better inform and align the individual with their mission, space, and experience, which is part of the vision quest experience that many folks have when you fast or purge. There is often a sharp clarity of what you are meant to do and become in the world. This is confusion or coloring from a particular lens. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand about picking your food directly from the garden, but most people can't do that. So what effect does waiting for it to get to the grocery store to buy it, what effect does that have on the food as far as what we get from it?
Yes. This depends on many factors. I'm seeing them like wrapping energetic tissue paper around foods. Symbolizing part of it is how your food is energetically processed and prepared, and also physically, literally. They're also showing me now. Do you know that fruit company, Harry and David, where they wrap up these like oranges and pears and things and send them to you in a box. It's this concept of these things are individually wrapped and preserved. This is particular. Sometimes the energy that we get from, and we're going to stick with fruits for this moment, and we'll know this applies to meat too, that is packed in containers, right? In the separation, and they're showing me that insulation around the wire again, it does the same sort of thing to this food, because this food has I'm hearing is predestined for you. It comes bearing gifts, it comes bearing fruit, it comes bearing information, experience that you are energetically asking for from the universe, which is, again, they're going to reiterate, so important why you follow your cravings. If you want a hamburger from a particular restaurant, there is a reason why you want it. It comes with information that has been cultivated not only by you, but by another living creature who has, this is another topic for another time, autonomy, choice, ability to shift and change their environment, which they're also saying every food does, whether it's an animal or a plant, or none of the above. What was your question? Your question was about how, we're talking about how food was packaged. It comes kind of in envelopes. Think of it as mail that's coming through. It has information just for you. Part of it depends on how it's been wrapped up. If you're getting information in the mail and it wasn't packaged so well, it's going to arrive damaged with maybe some pieces missing. It's going to be more challenging to consume. If it was cultivated, packaged without care or intention, the chance of information chunks getting lost along the way much higher. If you have a source that is contemplating their intention behind their work to package and process your food, it has like a sacred bow tie around it. I see this like sacred little ribbon that's tied up in a bow, and it's not necessarily literal. It can be an energetic shoestring. This is one reason why those folks who create systems to express and present energy through food are valuable and important. This includes folks who coordinate farmers markets. This involves folks who have chicken factories. This includes folks who are chefs at restaurants. Those folks are creating an additionally layered experience that is folding in multiple sources of information. It doesn't necessarily need to come straight from the source. It's valuable to understand what that tastes like. This is one thing that can be cultivated. A taste, like a sommelier will have the ability to refine their taste and understand by tasting just a sip of a wine what region from France it's from, what year, the climate, the dryness. So too can we refine our tastes of what comes directly from source, what has been filtered through perfunctory entities, what has been encouraged or discouraged, altered, hindered, limited, bolstered, both in the positive and negative. We too can refine our tastes and understand why we want more of something or less than something, or understand that we want more of something or less of something. We don't need to know why. That's less important than confirming your own feedback loop. Did that answer your question? I don't know if it did.
I don't.
Well, I was thinking how you
know.
would make up, but most of what we eat and or consume is processed.
Correct.
I meant a lot.
Correct.
and they tell you that of course, the processing destroys a lot of the nutritional value as far as vitamins and minerals and such. Now, if you throw the processing that's going to break down all of that, and then you put in, nobody cares when they work at these plants. You know, there may be one or two that really cares. Most of them, they're just drawing a paycheck, so they're doing what they have to do. So they're not putting positive energy in there trying to help this be a good, healthy meal for whoever winds up getting it. So I feel like there's a lot of, not only the processing, which is a mechanical kind of thing, but just the handling and just get her done, because it's all about the money anyway. So when they do all of that, there's lots and lots of negativity. How is that going to affect what little bit of purity might have been left in the meat or whatever by the time you get your hands on it? And if there's not that much, because it's been so diluted and polluted with all this other processing and handling, would vitamins and minerals that you get, supplements, make up a difference, or is that not going to affect what the information or whatever you were supposed to get from?
You're less connected to.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If it had something in its core in the beginning, would those vitamins and minerals that we take as supplements, because of everything that's been destroyed in the processing, is that not going to help? Because what was there for you come from source, and I don't know that they can substitute source at the core with vitamins and minerals that you buy in the store.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was going off of what she said. Would it have a negative effect on her health since it's been processed with all of everything else?
A few things, yes. So yes, correct, and also incorrect, depending on different parts of these things. This is why we are so hungry. When we consume processed goods, we do have access to many fewer living cells of wholeness. If we are thinking of the cell and cell walls, which this is not the literal thing, this is just a metaphor to help us get there. If we have a piece of food that's delivered to us that started with 100 full cells that has been damaged or mishandled or decayed over time, going back to answer your question of how long something takes to get to you, if it was picked or consumed from peak freshness or peak ripeness, this all has a factor. If often we have heavily processed foods, we are getting only a few complete cells, and many parts of this that are ruptured cells, so to speak. The integrity has been compromised in the sense that that cell wall is broken, and some of the yummy goodness that was held inside of it, the DNA, the information, has perhaps leaked out, has become compromised, is not fresh, is incomplete. It is an incomplete set of instructions. This is why we are hungry, because our bodies are computers. They need information and programming in order to have an expected output. And if the things that we put into our bodies are not enough fuel, we will become hungry for more. Alas, the incomplete portions that we put into our bodies are not understood how to be processed. They become stuck. They become incomplete. The concept of two halves, or even like one would at like a car graveyard where you have two cars that are the same make and model or whatever, and they're like both beat up, and you can kind of take parts from one car and put them in another car, and maybe by the end of the day you have one that runs. That's idealistic thinking that is not perhaps as helpful or beneficial. It's not sound methodology. It makes way less sense compared to eating real, healthy, loving, living foods. There is the concept of folks packaging and creating these things, while some are bringing their energetic expression and beliefs of the world. It's that is the most detrimental, when a being handles information and imprints their energetic vibration of what they believe in the world. I am not enough. This job is not enough. I will never be paid enough. Enough. Lacking enough. This informs the food of the shape that it wants to become, because our bodies, like computers, tell the fuel how it should run through our bodies. The computer tells the program which shape to go in, so to speak. It filters and files it in a particular way. They both bring information to the table. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this information that comes through us, the food picks this up because it is constantly picking up what it would like to be used for, what the being who's choosing it would like to use it for. And if along the way it encounters other beings who are templating ill-advised truths, the food will match their vibration, and thus will bring a ghost or a shadow of this information to our bodies as we more intimately interact with it, more intimately consume it. There is a deep intimacy about what we consume in our bodies, whether it be food, other human beings, clothing that we wear, whatever we energetically choose to step forward and away from in our lives. There is also the capability of an individual to repair and recreate cell walls. This is the metaphor that's not literal. Cell walls around the information packets in our food. They can bolster this by reaffirming capital T truth that pervades our experience and existence in the whole world. Truth that we are enough, we are divine creatures, we are equally balanced, we are collaborators, we are all the same, we are universal source consciousness, we are not differentiated, and yet we are differentiated to experience self. Beings that carry these beliefs allow this resonancy, allow this frequency to reverberate throughout the space they inhabit and allow resonance with other individual parts and entities around them. And so this can strengthen and bolster the food. This comes with carefulness and conscientiousness. This is not always cognitively known. It is not always in someone's particular vocabulary of, I go to the meat factory to encourage the meat that I touch and process so that it may deliver health to all the beings that create it and all the beings that consume it, because it flows both ways. Though this is more common than we understand, this is the particular importance of individuals connecting with their soul path and mission. It is important that we take the job even though we don't know why, because it's perhaps that we are needed at this particular, we're just going to keep rolling with meat factory, we're needed at this particular meat factory or soy sausage factory or factory of any created food, a factory that preserves lettuce or packages strawberries, a job that creates biodegradable plastic that can hold the blueberries that we will consume because it matches a more natural frequency that collaborates with the blueberries in a more positive way to bring unaltered information into our lives far and wide. The interconnectedness of our world today values how food can travel across borders. This is part of where we have developed, and yet we must not lose touch with our physical locality and our groundedness with what seasonally is available to us as the turning of the seasons dictates the more and less ideal times to execute particular paths and purposes in our lives and in our communities. However, the intergalactic nature of this food exchange allows us to pass information across borders. We can consume avocados from New Mexico and from Mexico, and they have different information about those geographical locations, about what they're doing, how they're doing, what they're calling for, what they need, because these foods, alike all of us, can put out a frequency of need and of satiation is not the right word, but of fullness. And thus is how the earth and our physical nature tends towards balancing these things. It is it's easier to balance these things than to perpetuate imbalance, which is part of why we are exhausted, because many times we perpetuate imbalance by putting food into our bodies, consuming media into our bodies that does not resonate or align with our core mission and our core expression of what our bodies want to create and produce in the world. Yeah. Yes, there is. If you go right through here, there is a sign on the wall, and it has a hand pointing, and it's the door straight to your right, and then the light switch is on the left wall.
So is it just kind of being more knowledgeable of where the food is coming from and like who is, because I know not all of us can have a garden and things like that. So is it just kind of just being cautious of what store you're going to, where they're getting it? And it seems like you were saying before, like being exhausted, like trying to find out where all your food is coming from, just so you can try to,
center and align yourself. Yeah, correct. And go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, it's just not feasible.
Correct.
To be able to do all that. So is there a way to kind of
Supplement
that,
that. Well,
how
that's
to
me
work
with
with
that. There's much we can do to some extent
Yeah.
to have fresher fruits and vegetables. That's a given. I'm a meat eater. I want
Yeah.
a steak that big.
Yeah. Like
That we don't have any. I can't go out in the backyard and chop,
butcher
get me
you
one,
up a cow. Yeah.
Don't even know anybody in my neighborhood that I could go get one from. So in that case, I'm going to have to just take what's available, eat whatever kind of meat or whatever. And we know there again about how that's done. And there's enough people with like PETA and places, talking about all the inhumanities that these animals suffer through. And I've seen some of them. I try not to look at it because I don't know that I could eat it if I really researched it. But that being the case, and that's what's there, and that's all you're going to get. You can't go to the farmer's market and get a steak. So how would you overcome that? Is there a supplement or would your mindset I just only want what's good from this into my body. The rest of it,
Your intention for
right. So I'm
taking
saying, that's how else could you overcome what it's been through?
Correct. Yes. The first thing that they want to say is when you mention not everyone can plant a garden or it's not feasible, they're saying correct, and nor should you. It is not everyone's path and soul mission. This is of no mistake and purpose. There is a beautiful nature of specialization that this allows us to step into and create, just as I might come to one of you for an expertise you offer that I no longer have the ability or don't want to, or just we can't do all the things, cannot cultivate. So too, just choosing where we consume things from, part of the information there. It is not meant for us to do all the things in the world. We are vastly independent in a way beyond what we need to be. The interdependence of our nature is valuable and important and informs the alignments that we should have with other people. I hear other planets, other places, other personalities. It shows us our team, and very much like the alcohol stratification and layers, the alignment, so too does food allow us in this way. So it is important that that local creamery that has particular product that many people like, those humans who all like the same thing, are likely aligned in a particular sense. Supplementation is a particular role. Before we get to that, we want to address what you both touched on of the ability to change and deliver energetic shift to our food pre and post consumption. You have the ability to, there is a developed ability to take only what nourishes your being and to allow your conduit to, I hear, get Teflon walls and let what doesn't belong to you slide down the Teflon. This is important to develop. This is not intrinsically how we are created. This is like Teflon. I actually don't know if this is true, but this is like Teflon, a lab created substance experience, correct? It is a tool that mankind has developed and created in order to meet a particular need. And like this, we too can program our bodies with this need, especially of value and importance if we do not have access to the clean food and water that our energetic bodies are desiring. There's also something to be known of requesting from your store, requesting from your supermarket. You can, they're showing me this thing that I did once of like, I really liked this particular brand of Greek yogurt. And I'm like, oh, I would love it if my grocery store could carry this. And my grocery store had this thing of like, do you need a product that we don't have? Write it down here and we'll see what we can do. This is part of our job, and I do hear that as a job, it is a choice, and yet it is also a job to make known vibrationally. Sometimes this takes place with our voices or our dollars, what we choose to put energy into and call forward. This is our gift as energetic beings who have the ability to shape and change our environments around us, which is brilliant beyond form, because we have the ability to fine-tune our experience to the nth degree. So we can bless our food before we eat it. We can bless it after. We can ask that what we don't need pass through us, that what we need becomes rises to the surface like cream, like the cream of the crop. You know what this means? That it is that the ruptured cells or little parts of information that have been compromised or neglected be sloughed away, very much like, I want to say dead skin, like we're eating dead skin, but like, you know, you slough it off and it can come into your body. More clearly, the what remains that is integritous can be more easily consumed. Now, when it comes to energetically altering, bolstering, reinstating the energetic integrity of our food before we consume it, this is again where we have the capacity to conduit, to use our connection with Source to Reiki our food, to essentially allow Source space, Source energy, divinity come through our bodies and be channeled through the way that suits us best. This is another thing that is often different for each individual person. Just like your fingerprint is different, so too is the way that you manifest and process energy different from your neighbor. This is another thing that is important to develop over time and is worth our investment. This tool that we develop, we can use this to channel, which means to direct Source energy to our food, to reinstate its health, and by proxy, all the beings and people that came in touch with it as it was delivered to you. It will inhabit the soil that grew the fruit tree that gave fruit to you, or gave fruit to the animal that, at every step along the way. This is also the value of eating as close to raw foods as is desired. Some folks are called to this, other folks are not. If you are, it is often in your habit and pattern, and I'm not going to say that this is truth for you because it's truth for some people, but I'm not sure exactly in your experience. When we are called to consume foods that many other people interact with, it is likely because part of our energetic gift, purpose, path on this planet is to realign many, many people by incremental change. This is different than massive change on a one-to-one scale. I'm also feeling like the capacity of this information, I know this is a lot of information, I want to let you guys know that I feel like we're getting at like 85, 90, 95% of, I think, what feels healthy for us as a channeling group to handle tonight. So I'm going to give that sort of like a, not 10-minute warning, but like that percentage of whatever to check in with folks and make sure everyone is, how are we all feeling?
I feel good. I feel like I took everything more, not so much literally as far as, planting your own garden, which, if you do, that's wonderful, but I took it more like mentally, like just watch what you consume as far as like, fast food or, just overly processed food for me personally, just because I feel like it does clog like your, just how she was saying, what did you say, like your flow, I just feel like it definitely, like you just even feel better, like just eating healthier and eating fresh, things. I just took it more, like when you do eat things that aren't as fresh or as full of information, like you were saying, I feel like it does definitely like clog your brain to like your soul purpose and like your real, like mission, I guess, like you were saying.
This is something that I feel for you in particular is, they're letting me know that your body is very like water-based. Water information is a big way of how you process things, and you are meant to kind of interact with the integrity of water and the messaging of that, and that comes through most clearly through those, like what you were saying. Although this is interesting because they're showing me the difference even within our group right now, because I'm feeling yours particularly strongly as well, but there are different paths of how we interact with different things. There are definitely, and you can see this generationally also with almost there, because I hear I've heard this concept of meat and potatoes generation before. I don't know if there are other ones too, but I also feel like there's this concept of rising veganism, which is not restricted to age of anyone. There are blended lines here all over the place, but there are striations of mission groups that are particularly inclined. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, our intention has to play a lot in this. So any damage done to our food before we get it can be shifted with our intention as we prepare our own food and our thoughts about it. Do we accept what comes with it, or do we choose to put our own imprint on it so that it's better for us?
I'm feeling big applause because that's the message. That's the message right there of we choose. It is something that we can step towards with integrity, with intentionality. It can be conscious or not conscious. It is often why food made by our loved ones tastes differently. The grilled cheese that your grandmother makes you will always taste like her. Yeah. Did everyone get that? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. This is good. You know, before long, we're going to have multiple channels in this experience.
I'd love that.
That would be fun. Yeah.
As the person who has to do all the cooking in my house,
Correct.
I think about that because, also living a kind of an earth-based, trying to live an earth-based connection, you learn that preparing food is really a powerful thing. And so you have to pay attention to it, whether you like cooking or not. But if you like cooking and you find joy in it, then that makes the food that much better. It increases the vibration, therefore it increases your vibration. You share it with everybody around you. So that has to resonate out.
Yeah. Yeah. This is part of the value of our choice in who we consume with and from. And understanding our boundaries, intentions, and relationship with them, just as we might consider or choose who we allow into our friend circle, our intimate circle, our circle of confidence, so too might we consider the choices we make as to whose and what energy we allow touch our food circle.
So, in the end, it doesn't really matter how processed the food that you buy from the grocery store is, as long as you choose to give it like a positive impact.
Correct. And there is a concept of how much capacity you have to energetically allow the flow of energy into your food. It's like, it's not that, for many, holding this energetic flow can be challenging or cumbersome. For many, holding this flow can be easy. It depends on your sharpened skills, talents, and abilities and what flows through you. Some folks are effortless artists and can create likeness with perhaps almost a second thought. Part of that has been gifted that they walk in with. Part of that has the capability of being developed. We all have the capacity to experience oneness, and yet we choose differentiation coming to the planet so that we may experience the love of another, of receiving another's skill. So yes and no. Does that make sense? Of if it is within your skill and propensity to do this easily and effortlessly, it might make most sense that you consume whatever you need to and that you pull your own information down. There is a concept of deliberation around choosing what, and I hear what enemy you want to fraternize with. It's not necessarily an enemy, but what sort of information, friendship you want to fraternize with, because lettuce is going to offer you information that you might, it's going to offer you a lens that might work with one of your lenses particularly well, right? It's the same source that's kind of coming through, but as it is filtered through a kaleidoscope, so to speak, sometimes these kaleidoscope images, as they lay across each other, make another kind of brilliance that is, it's like a two-layered kaleidoscope. Does that make sense? Yeah. Great question. Yeah.
So is it like just get your hands down in there and get your energies, and you
Correct.
can't just like stir something in a pan and then put it on your plate and then
You can. You
will
totally can.
that would expect the energies to be higher on that and that, or is it more like just you have to get your hand in there and get your energies from your body and like in the food? And
They're showing me as you're doing this motion, I'm hearing pre-digestion, that this is also a way that you pre-digest this food, almost like when we were talking about the, like a pregnant woman and getting cravings and like having an alignment and like kind of getting acquainted with the particular union of energies, so too does our collaboration with our food pre-digest it / realign it, or orient it, if you will, orient it towards our energy. And they're showing me, as you're like stirring things in a pan, there's this concept of some things you don't need to do much changing to, and others you're going to want to work with a lot. I'm hearing like reducing butter, these like very intricate, I'm hearing French recipes, that in and of itself is a process that is taking a raw ingredient, and now I'm seeing like cheese, like how they make cheese too. It's taking this energy and putting it through a particular flow to allow it to take on a different experience, something that can be preserved longer over time. And this is not inherently a bad thing. Like, cheese is a way to make the nutrients and bioavailability of milk available to us over a longer period of time. It allows us to sustain ourselves on travels and journeys, as does processed food. It was a way to allow us to explore spaces further from our hearth, so to speak. We could send our child to school and not have to have them come home over lunchtime to refuel their bodies, because we developed ways to container, to Tupperware almost, energetic freshness, and to give this to ourselves later over time, which has allowed us to develop other technologies beyond the capacity of belief, like making newspaper. I was like, example, like making newspaper a way to take trees and to turn them into slurry, to turn them into paper pulp, to turn them into something flat, to something, to create ink, to put ink on, to basically capture and exchange information in a way that is way shorter than, let me sit you down and let's talk about today's news, or something like this. So too is this what we've been able to do. So there's this need to reiterate that none of the processing, none of the decomposition and recomposition of our food, nothing has inherent value or disvalue. It was all created with purpose. Processed foods in general were created for a purpose, to put us in this space now where we have the necessity to question what we are putting in our bodies because we're not getting what we need in particular senses. There is a dullness of our ability to cognitively engage with our food in a way that is intelligent, that matches the intelligence we have the capacity to have at this point in our lives and development on this planetary experience. That was rant. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Because I'm feeling called back to your experience also, the value and many others' experience of being called toward meat. There is not necessarily a diet that is all good, all bad. It's different for everybody, every person. The important part is that you step towards yours with knowingness, and I'm hearing integrity. The integrity meaning alignment. And while it doesn't have to be cognitive intentionality, there is an energetic consent and vibratory match that you can allow yourself to have with your food. That's the whole, that's the thing. That it's and one piece of that is that feedback loop, but a lot more of that is being in touch with your path, purpose, what you're feeling called to in the world, being in touch with your energetic flows and understanding that your energetic calling is to root energy into the planet, or to send healing to many people along the way, or to pass healing to your child or your loved one or your neighbor through the food that you make for them. We all have different callings to wield energy through food and around food and within food, substances, and consumables in different ways. Yeah. This is feeling good. Are there any other I don't think there are burning questions in this group. Any lingering curiosities that are whatever the reverse of a whirlybird leaf does there?
One question.
Yeah.
Okay, the supplementation that because she brought that up too, the supplementation.
Yes. I never got it.
That we use in place of the nutrients that we're not getting. Is that working? Does that work? I mean,
it has, in a way. There were spaces where there were large deficiencies, and I'm hearing iodine, which I know a little bit about people who were missing iodine and then they added it to the salt. There's this concept of mass deficiencies, not even just mass, widespread would be a more appropriate, widespread deficiencies, common deficiencies. There is an understanding that these deficiencies have, there was a peak and it's going down now. There was a peak in particular deficiencies, and I'm seeing like 80s cellophane wrapped foods was a time of peak deficiency where many humans understood that a multivitamin allows them to receive more complete nutrition. It started way before then, but I feel like this is perhaps the peak of this experience. The concept now, however, is twofold. And now they're laughing because they're like, haha, just two. It can't be just two. I'm like, okay, two primaries that have become apparent, although it is multidimensional and layered to no end. One being that our specialization that has been allowed through our technological advancement that we're kind of speaking about has brought us to be so specialized that our individual diets have such nuanced shapes, forms, requirements, needs, callings, which is a brilliance because there has been a not deepened importance, but a heightened like hilt or kilt of energetic processing, and so food is not. It's always been important, but the specialization is valuable. I feel like I'm losing that a little bit. So that's one of the things, is that we're so everyone's needs are so particular that it's challenging now to prescribe a single multivitamin that can accurately complete the food health of a large number of people, which is on purpose. It's part of what's bringing us back to being our own medicine givers, to being our own medicine givers. Following our cravings will essentially help us do this process to and for ourselves in a more biologically informed, intuitive way, holistic way. The other concept of this is that, what was the question? Was it about? It was about using multivitamins and nutrients and minerals and stuff, right? Yeah. The other part of this is that it's like taking a Picasso painting and taking each color as a separate piece and then mass producing it for many people to recreate on their own. You can have the integrity of the color as clearly printed on the block as you can, and you can try and jigsaw it out quite particularly, and it's just not the same. It's like a Mr. Potato Head versus, and this is something that came through earlier and I had no idea what it was about, but like a Mr. Potato Head versus like a real live talking potato or something like this. You can have all these little pieces, right? You can have these pieces of it that you're saying like, this arm is potassium, this arm is nitrogen, this leg is carbohydrates, and you can piece together this experience, and yet these pieces can still be they're separate. They are not fluid. There is still a membranous barrier. They're energetically separate entities, and thus can work together in kind of a robotic way, but do not have the fluidity. You know, that what was it, Van Gogh, or that artist painting before, like, will not have the same fluidity, that je ne sais quoi, that like the sum of the parts. What is that? It's so brilliant. It is value greater than the sum of the parts. Just like the human body, if we take our human body apart and then we are dead and then we put it back together, it's not like we miraculously become alive again. This is the same thing with our food. And while there is this body intelligence of our stomach being able to process lots of separate things, it's a completely different experience. If we eat all the individual parts that go into baking a cake, or even eat all the individual parts of a salad, if we eat them separately, is different than if we make a chicken Caesar salad and then put it into our bodies. The taste, the consumption, it shows me like the energetic motion, the symphony. It's like hearing a symphony in individual parts. It's entirely different, because when you have a whole symphony play together, there is a magic in the room that is never the same when you record each piece individually. And again, it's different recorded versus heard live or in person. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Well, how's everybody feeling? Okay. I was gonna say the last thing I'm gonna do is ask if there's anything else that we need tonight, but I don't think anyone else can someone ask, is there anything else if we need tonight? And then I'll go ahead and close after that. Anyone want to be a volunteer?
Oh, you're
Is
saying
there-
like someone asked
Is there
you?
anything else that the
Oh,
group needs
yeah.
to do?
This is the thing. There's some weird, like, I feel like my hands are tied sometimes because I can't ask follow-up questions. Sorry, Nina.
Is there anything else that the group needs to hear on the topic tonight?
No, this is brilliant, whole, and complete.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you for satisfying that need for
No,
me.
if you needed it out loud enough.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's
Okay.
good. This is a good way. This is how I can
Good.
not cheat the system. Kind of cheat the system, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I am gonna go ahead and close this sort of like energetic portal. Yeah. And love and light, I thank our masters, teachers, and loved ones for their information and guidance. Amen, amen, amen. The records are closed. The last image that I got, I don't know if anyone else, I watched The Magic School Bus when I was a kid, and at the end of the episode, they, which is an animated kids TV show, really great in case you wanted to check it out, but they have this thing at the end where they have all these kids calling all over the world, and it's like toot 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 toot, and they call, and then they like ask questions to the producer or phone, and it's just like this network. And I get the concept that whether cognitively or not, the information and value of the energy that came through to us all tonight will find its integrity as it moves forward through us in ways beyond our knowing. So even if we hit any elbow bends or mistakes, inaccuracies within the episode, which they would call on at the end of the episode and be like, well, Liz the Lizard said this, and it's actually not that way. And they're like, yeah, you're right, it isn't. But for a 30-minute kids TV show, we changed it like this. So anyway, it sounds like the information will find the people that it needs to and the way that it needs to. And also the caveat of understand the limitation of metaphors in particular areas that we talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah.